This is hot off the press. Mike Huckabee at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearings. Very important message concerning Hamas, their future in Gaza, and Iran. I must listen.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank all of our nominees for your past public service and also for your willingness to continue to serve our great nation, and for your families who also have sacrificed and serve along with you, so thank you. The Popular Resistance Committees is the third largest terrorist organization in Gaza and also a puppet of Iran. After decades of attacks, including the October 7th attack, it has both American and Israeli blood on its hands. Despite this, the PRC has yet to be properly designated and sanctioned. Later today, Senator Schiff and I will be introducing the Accountability for Terrorist Perpetrators of October 7th Act, which, among other things, will cut off the People's Resistance Committees from the global financial markets. Governor Huckabee, do you agree that the U.S. should hold all terrorist groups who played a role in October 7th accountable for the atrocities?
Senator, a wonderful question, because I feel like that this is one that everyone, Democrat, Republican, and the fact that you have bipartisan support to introduce that bill is very significant. I cannot imagine under any circumstances that any right-minded person would find it acceptable to support or to even acknowledge that there was justification in any way for the massacre of innocent civilians on October the 7th. If I'm confirmed, I will be absolutely clear to carry the president's policies. They have been clear that Hamas will have no future in Gaza. It can't. This was not simply a cold-blooded murder in which people came across the borders and shot innocent people. They massacred them. And they did it in the way that was most physically painful and in the way that was most personally humiliating. And worse, they videotaped themselves doing it because they were proud of it. And they published it with pride. And they announced repeatedly that they would do it again. Hamas is not a government, it's not a standing army, it is a terrorist organization, and they acted like it. And they must be treated as such. And if confirmed, I would hope that this unfortunate, horrific war that has resulted in many, many deaths, including Americans, the taking of hostages for a longer period of time than even the hostages in 1979 were taken during the Iranian takeover, that all of that could come to an end and there could be accountability for what was done to Jewish people on October the 7th of 2023.
So I take by your answer, I can have your commitment to work with me on this piece of legislation that will properly hold the People's Resistance Committees accountable and properly sanctioned and designated. Is that fair?
Senator, unflinchingly, I commit to you to do that very thing.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to the head of the snake, Iran. Right now, the Ayatollah is reeling. Hamas and Hezbollah have been decimated. Iran's been kicked out of Syria, at least for the time being, after the fall of Assad. Tehran's air defensive have been wiped out by the IDF. And thanks to President Trump reimposing maximum pressure, including sanctioning Communist China's teapot refineries, its economy is in freefall. However, it remains to be seen if, out of desperation, Iran will come to the table or sprint to build a nuclear weapon. President Trump has reportedly given Tehran 2 months to deal or risk severe consequences. Needless to say, Iran, being closer than ever to having a nuclear weapon, isn't just a threat to Israel, it's a threat to the United States and global security in general. It cannot be allowed to happen. Do you agree with President Trump that Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon?
Senator, I appreciate the question because it gives me the opportunity to let you know that I absolutely believe that the president is taking the right course of action. He did it when his first term. The maximum pressure bankrupted the Iranians. It made it impossible for them to fund the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. They didn't have the money. When his term ended and President Biden took office, unfortunately, they relaxed some of those pressures. And the result was Iran had money again. They didn't use it to help their people. They used it to murder people in Israel through the Houthis, through Hezbollah, and through Hamas. I'm grateful to serve a president who recognizes that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon and that it is better to bankrupt them than it is to bomb them.
And Governor Huckabee, you're exactly right. The Trump administration took Iran's foreign reserves down from $122.5 billion down to under $14 billion. That prevented them from funding groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. So you're exactly right, and this policy of sanctioning them and trying to bankrupt Iran is exactly the right course. So thank you very much. And with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Wow. I'm humbled by so many people recognizing, I guess, what should be obvious truth. But we live in a world today that obvious truth may not be so obvious. That Hamas, Hezbollah, the Popular Resistance Committee, they're evil entities. Iran, the head of the snake, are evil entities and have to be dealt as such. Now, my greatest wish, and from a Jewish perspective, from the Torah, is that the sin should die and not the sinner. But when the sinner holds on to the sin so strongly and through that is destroying innocent lives, then we have no choice but to rid the world of such evil. And if you can do it by bankrupting Iran, by squeezing them so they don't have the monies, then of course do that. I'm not certain that that's going to be sufficient because the race for the nuclear arsenal that they're working on, and if they have that capacity, the world will be a very, it'll be a very dark moment for the world. So it needs to be stopped, obviously. And what's beautiful is that there's such a clarity in many people today and leaders that recognize they need to do this. But I want to come back to something that I always come back to, that these things are important, but this is not what we're here for. We are here to make a world of good, to do goodness and kindness, to change the world, to change a person's life in a positive way. Yes, we need to deal with the ills and the evils of society, absolutely. But our ultimate goal is being charitable, being there for others, fulfilling the will of God. For the Jewish people, that means Torah and mitzvahs. For the nations of the world, that means the seven Noahide universal laws of all of mankind. That's the goal. And through that, we will be able then to actually create a world where there won't be any more war, where there won't be greed, and there'll be plenty materially for all. And most importantly, that the Spirit of God's presence will be so palpable and real that we will be involved in positive, wonderful, good things in this world and truly making this world a divine place for the Almighty, a dwelling place in this low world that has sunk to a low place. But we're in the midst of, and we're on the threshold of changing that. Let's join together. Let's all engage in another mitzvah. To learn more about this, please join me to study the Tanya. I teach daily, live, online, on this platform and other platforms, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And let's make it happen.